Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing.
And I'm Chloe Stebbing.
We're the weekly list of what we're watching, and it may become what you're watching this weekend. And for the coming week, we come at you every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, hopefully visually this week,
Yeah.
if the overlords of the internet and Zencaster allow it to be so.
Zencaster is a vengeful god, I guess.
Let's just rip the band-aid
Yeah.
off and see what's fresh. I keep hitting my mic arm,
Yeah.
and do you hear it on that end? I'm like, "Ding."
Yeah.
I heard it
And
in the last
the
episode.
last episode it's just throughout.
Yeah, it's just me just smacking it.
We're really good at what we do, guys.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know that I've been doing this for well over a decade. Like, you wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't.
You would not know. So when I say ripping the band-aid off, I really just mean it for you, because when I teased it at the end of last week's episode, you were like, I'm looking forward to it. But let's just get into it. It's The Watchers.
A young artist gets stranded in an extensive, immaculate forest in Western Ireland, where, after finding shelter, she becomes trapped alongside three strangers, stalked by mysterious creatures each night. Starring Dakota Fanning, Georgina Campbell, Olwen Fowler,
I
and
don't even
Oliver
know.
Finnegan. Yeah, I don't know. And Oliver Finnegan. Written and directed by Ishana Shyamalan.
Which I think when the billing comes at the end, it's Ishana Night Shyamalan. But that's just how IMDb has her billed. Um, And right there, this is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's film, her debut film. Her only credits leading up to this was 6 episodes of the show Servant on Apple TV Plus, which is M. Night Shyamalan's TV series that he has with Rupert Grint is in that one. Lauren Ambrose. Trying to spacing on who the male lead is in it. But solid series. But I don't know, when I was watching this movie, and I know it's harsh to think this, and it's just a nagging thing on me, but I just couldn't help to think of the nepotism of this film, especially being that it was so close to what her dad would have made, but just less, more half-baked, I'll say. It
More
feels,
amateur.
yeah, it feels like a student film with a very high budget. It feels like an idea that wasn't fully formed, and they're also trying to cram a lot in weird places. The script is not good. I mean, the acting would be good if the script was better, but it's marginally a Shyamalan script. It's very reminiscent of her father, and very kind of stilted dialogue in which you almost wonder, like, this is movie dialogue. It feels 100% like movie dialogue, and it doesn't feel like there's any kind of reality granted in it. um I mean, I really like Dakota Fanning, but not in this. And the other actress's name, which I'm not going to try to pronounce, she's really great and has like a great like look to her, but I don't know, just this movie doesn't work. And I like Georgina Campbell a lot. She was the lead in Barbarian, and
Yeah.
I really liked her in that film, and I wanted to like her in this, but there's just, I don't know, and it also feels like too little as well. So I don't know. There's just so many logic gaps in this film too that are like really frustrating. Like the simple existence of this cabin that the watchers watch these people from, like just the simple existence of that. And there's just, I don't know, I'm interested in what Ashana was trying to do, but I just wish it was better. I really do. And I know you were looking forward to this, especially because you generally enjoy a lot of Shyamalan's work, maybe a
Hmm.
little bit more than I do. Um,
I think more than most people do.
yeah. Well, did you like, see, I really like Unbreakable.
Hmm.
Um, I like Split.
Yeah.
I disliked Glass a lot.
I liked Glass. I I don't know. I kind of feel just like I'm an M Night simp. Like kind of
Yeah.
anything that he puts out, I'll be like, all right. Like I'll try to justify it. The M Night movie recently that I didn't like was Knock at the Cabin.
Yes. And then I liked that one. So we were like offsetting.
Yeah.
We were very offsetting. And you liked Old. I didn't like
Yeah.
Old. I like The Visit.
Mhm.
I enjoyed that one. Where do you fall on Last Airbender?
I don't have interest in that series.
Yeah.
So I just have it.
Or After Earth
Wait, isn't that the one with Will Smith?
and
Okay,
Jaden
no.
Smith.
Not not that one.
So both
I'm
those two.
yeah.
But everything else. Like I was an apologist because I was working in a video store at the time. I was an apologist for Lady in the Water because I
Mhm.
enjoy Lady in the Water, even though it has like his like most mean spirited thing in the movie, where he had there's a film credit character and he has him killed. Really, he dies in a pretty brutal way. It felt pointed. It felt like an attack. But I don't know. He's more miss than hit in a lot of ways with me, especially um post Village. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I mean, hopefully this isn't put her in some kind of movie jail. She does have a 27% with this film on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's not like a great.
Is
It's
that
not
audience or critic?
as a critic one.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
27 rotten.
Uh-huh.
And I was like the leading up to the screening, I was watching I was refreshing the Rotten Tomatoes page because it wasn't posted yet, and my first refresh was like when it finally did post a score was 27. So that's not good. It wasn't like a whittle down. It was just like bang, like
Yeah.
27. You're like, oh, and especially coming after last week, The Strangers Chapter 1. It was a bummer for horror 2 weeks in a row. So
Yeah.
yeah, and another one. Let's get some more horror right now though. And this is the Sydney Sweeney film Immaculate.
Cecilia, a woman of devout faith, is warmly welcomed to the picture perfect Italian countryside where she is offered a new role at an illustrious convent. But it becomes clear to Cecilia that her new home harbors dark and horrifying secrets. Starring Sydney Sweeney, directed by Michael Mohan.
And you saw this movie before me.
Hmm.
And I'd heard such mixed bag of things about this film. People that I know that really liked it, also people that I know that really didn't like it. But I kind of dug it for what it was trying to be, because it's very reminiscent of like an Italian like giallo film, like horror, like one of those kind of gothic Italian horror films. And plus with the whole religious aspect and antichrist stuff kind of nudging it along, um and the pretty solid pieces of gore here and there. I was kind of into it. I dug it, and I think Sydney Sweeney did a great job. She is
Yeah.
very scream queen quality. And if this is something that is this is a genre that I think she could continue in, and she was a huge champion of this movie, because this movie, um I believe, had funding at one time. She was cast and everything was ready to go, and then funding dropped out, and so the movie basically got canceled. So she took it upon herself, became producer to shop this movie to get made. So she's like the driving force behind this movie. And yeah, I mean, for a someone of, because she's still pretty young, right? So someone of her
Hmm.
age to take the reins like that, like I think she's got a pretty solid foothold in a successful career already, which is quite impressive, I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. this one. I am getting a little tired of the religion bad sentiment in horror movies because I just like lately that's been like almost every movie, like
Hmm.
every horror movie that comes out. So I'm starting to get a little bit tired of that. But I do really like the twist in this one. Like it's not what you think it's going to be,
Yeah.
and it's a very visceral movie.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
2 minute long screaming scene. Like I was like, geez, like this is going on a really long time, and it like just like kind of the longer it went on, the more it was like uncomfortable
Yeah.
instead of fun, and I was okay with that.
Hmm. Yeah. This one is not afraid. It packs some punches and a few different things. I think, and I don't want to give for anyone that hasn't seen this movie. I don't want to give away the ending
Yeah,
at all
exactly.
because it's gnarly. That last scene is an all timer. Like I can't imagine what that was like in theaters. I kind of
Yeah,
wish I was in a theater, like a packed theater or like a festival theater for that
yeah.
one, just so you have the real good reactions to it, because that is it's an incredible scene. Like it's crazy, and to even contextualize it is just nuts. And then there's also another like torturous scene, like a spying scene, and which is really gnarly. And like I said, there's a couple gore parts that I'm like, that was effective. That was
Yeah.
effective. So yeah, I a round of applause for this movie. At the end of it, I enjoyed it quite a bit. All right, so let's move on to the home discs. What you can put in your Blu-ray player. Yes, on the Blu-ray this week, and I'm for this one, I didn't watch it on Blu-ray, but it is now on my list to pick up on Blu-ray. I watched it on Shudder, and it's called Stop Motion.
While it may sound extreme, using real meat for stop motion is an actual technique used by stop motion legend Jan Svanmacher.
Is that what I put for the synopsis?
Yes.
Shit. Shit, I put the wrong thing. I put a piece of trivia instead. I guess I'll read this one because I screwed Chloe over on this one.
Sabotaged me.
Sabotage. A stop motion animator struggles to control her demons after the loss of her overbearing mother. Starring Aisling Franciosi and written and directed by Rob Morgan. And Rob Morgan is a stop motion animator largely. He has a few shorts that are like really creepy and really weird. And this is a hybrid film where stop motion is kind of just like at the core of this film. And it is clearly a descent into madness type of film. Like it's her mother dies, who's like overbearing, and every day they would work on this stop motion story that was like her it was like her mother's like compulsion type thing. So there's obviously something demonic at play in this, and it's a creepy little film. I don't know if you've heard anything about this film.
I I I feel like I might have.
Yeah, it's a
Um
Shudder original.
like just the thought of like a stop motion set made of meat is familiar to me, but I can't pinpoint why.
It's because you've seen Phil Tippett's Mad God, so it makes sense. It's like that makes
Maybe.
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That could work. I could believe in that. This movie is gnarly though. It's got some body horror stuff that's just really gross and really brutal. And just the creepy hybrid, the stop motion that appears in it is really messed up as well. And I really like Aisling Franciosi. She was in a movie called The Nightingale, which was directed by Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook. It was her second
Okay.
film. And that's a wild, there's some violence in that film that is like hard to shake, like some brutal violence in that movie. It's a hell of a film as well. But I kind of really like Rob Morgan as a feature filmmaker, and I think this is the beginning of something really cool, especially like an almost like Lovecraftian uh level of depravity to his stuff. So I could be into more for sure. And it would be a good pairing with another Shudder film that I saw. I think it was pandemic era, so 2020, maybe a little bit before that, called Bliss. It's kind of a
Yeah.
vampire film.
Oh,
It- it's slightly like it's ish like it's a blood obsessed film. It's basically about an artist in LA. You've probably seen it.
I when you said Bliss, I thought of the Owen Wilson movie where he gets addicted to drugs.
Oh, that one. Okay, yeah, no, different one. Different
Yeah.
one than that one. This one was also a Shudder original, and this was actually when I started getting into Shudder. But it's a solid movie. Like all Shudder originals, this is out on RLJ Entertainment Blu-ray, who usually do a really good job with their stuff. And yeah, I think if you're a horror fan, you owe it to yourself to check this one out, because there's a few things in this one that definitely put me in the fetal position. Ugh. All right, let's move on to a classic that's about to get its re-release in 4K, but definitely not in Penticton. Seven Samurai.
Farmers from a village exploited by bandits hire a veteran samurai for protection, who gathers 6 other samurai to join him. Starring Toshiro Mifune, written and directed by Akira Kurosawa.
Kurosawa is like one of the film gods. And this film is getting a re-release in 4K this year because it's turned 70 this year. It's a big deal. This is a massively influential film. Even Star Wars comes from Kurosawa's work. I think it's Hidden Fortress is what Star Wars is kind of loosely inspired by. But Seven Samurai was remade as the Magnificent Seven. Heck, it was even A Bug's Life. That's the Magnificent Seven.
Really?
That's the Seven Samurai storyline. Yeah, is Bug's Life. Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. It's really interesting to watch this film again because you see why it was a trendsetter. I mean, Kurosawa was doing camera things that were new and bold, and still stuff that you use to this day. There's great character development in this. I really love just the movement of this film. But frick, is it long? It's 3 hours and 27 minutes long.
Oh,
Uh, but that also includes an intermission, which I find is awesome. Like when they had the intermission in the Hateful Eight, I was so tickled by that. I just love an intermission. So I got to watch my Criterion Collection edition of this one that I got for Christmas a couple of years ago. It's number 2 in the Criterion Collection. So
oh,
yeah, yeah, it's because number 1 is what is number 1? I'm spacing out what number 1 is, but it's out of print. You can't get it. They haven't re-released it on Blu-ray. So it is unavailable, but my friend Rob has it. I think he has the complete 1 through 100 now, that he's like ordered through eBay and all that kind of stuff. But
wow.
yeah, but Seven Samurai is a big deal. It's a big deal film. It's a very meaningful film, and I haven't seen it in a long time, so to rewatch it again was pretty cool. It was a big undertaking, but it was definitely cool. All right, let's get to, well, it's a TV movie, I guess, but it's one of well, it's this show's new direction. Is instead of seasons, we're gonna get movies, and this is South Park joining the Panderverse.
I don't have this.
Oh, you don't have this? Ah, I set you up for failure again. The end of Cartman's familiar, beloved life is predicted by his incredibly unsettling dreams. As the arrival of AI upends their society, the grown-ups in South Park, who are also struggling with their own personal decisions. I love South Park. I really do. This is also available on Paramount Plus. This is the new thing. We're instead of doing seasons, they're doing their friend who's also a diehard South Park guy, and he felt the same way about it too. So it's not like a just it's not just me noticing that. So I don't know.
Panderverse is the one where
They're all
Cartman is swapped with the the black woman, right?
yeah,
Or
they're
is
all
that a
and they're
different?
all girls. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I understand both sides,
Hmm.
like because when it's, I'll say, meaningless diversity, where it's just like, oh, we'll just put that there because
Hmm.
you know it's in, I don't know, I think pandering occurs on both sides, like either like you say that you're super against it, okay, well then, like, it, it's hard to articulate this.
Hmm. Hmm.
It
It's
kind of just seems like a meaningless fight in the
yeah,
first place.
yeah. I would agree. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and it kind of extends because I might as well lump the new one, the Ozempic special, into
yeah,
this as well because I just watched that as well, and I'm not gonna read a synopsis for it. It's fine. Uh, um, there are parts of that I thought were that is mean as well. But I don't know. I enjoyed it more than Panderverse, I will say. Um, but I thought some of the prescribing Lizzo stuff, they just go a little too much. But the Ozempic stuff and the hard six pack abs that everybody has and everything because of
yeah,
it is so funny. That stuff was all funny, and the fact that it basically turns into like a Mad Max like
yeah.
chase on the road with cars and everything is so great. It's so it's so funny. So there's stuff to win it over. I just don't feel like Panderverse had enough other stuff to win me over. It just felt like kind of
Yeah.
me needling throughout.
Yeah, well, because that's one thing that I've always really liked about South Park is that they can look at all sides and make fun of all of them, you
Yeah,
know?
there's a
But
balance.
yeah, exactly. But
Yeah, I don't know. It was a stumble because they seem to be recovering now with this Ozempic special because I think it is better.
yeah,
Um, I'm calling it the Ozempic special because I completely space on what it's actually called.
the end of obesity.
Oh, the end of a BC. There we go. Thank you. Thank you for fact checking me live about that one. Well, you can stream that on Paramount Plus, and you can also stream these ones as well. That's right. The streaming pile is back this week. Bittersweet, because this is the final season of a show that I really enjoy. A show that started during the pandemic and was very like coded to the pandemic. This is Sweet Tooth.
A boy who is half human and half deer survives in a post apocalyptic world with other hybrids, starring Christian Convery, Anozi, Adil Akhtar, Stefania Livy Owen, and Neledy Murray. Created by Jim Mickle and Beth Schwartz, based on characters created for DC Vertigo by Jeff Lemire. Available on Netflix.
And that's Canadian author Jeff Lemire. I always like to put the staple on that. Just a fantastic writer, just like a phenomenal writer. And this Sweet Tooth is like for me like a beloved graphic novel. I really enjoyed the book. So to see the first season and how well they did with it, I was so like happy about it because it was a shining beacon in like a weird time. Like it was just like a really great show that I gravitated towards during lockdown time when I was laid off. And season two is great. And I'm glad that they're going out on their own and just ending it with the season three. but it is bittersweet because I really do love the show. I do like these characters a lot. Christian Convery as Gus is so great. And to add to the fact that he was also in Cocaine Bear and has some really funny lines in that movie, just adds to my like for his work. I like Nonso Anozie a lot. I've liked him in a lot of British work for years now. Stefania Olivia Owen, like the core cast is really good, and then you bring in Marie Tran in this season from Star Wars, and Cara G from The Expanse, and I love both those actors a lot. So um, yeah, it's crazy that, because I don't know, do you watch Sweet Tooth at all?
I do. And I also started watching it during the pandemic, and I was really excited for season two, but I was actually kind of disappointed by season two. It We focused on fucking Dr. Eggman a little too much, I feel. Like I didn't really care.
And his brother
Yeah.
Johnny.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I didn't really care about those guys.
Okay.
Um
Yeah. Because it was
and it
more like
kind of
compound stuff. It was more like,
yeah, and it kind
let's.
of took away like the post-apocalyptic feel,
Hmm.
because it's like, oh, everything's militarized and everything's pretty much like established. Like this doesn't look post-apocalyptic. It just looks like an army base.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but I do have high hopes for season 3.
Well, and that's the thing too, because like the big evil of 1 and 2, now we've kind of dealt with that. So
Yeah.
now it's the focus is to wrap up Gus's story,
Yeah.
to find his mom and everything. And it goes in it, like the new bad that's brought into it, which is one that's already kind of been introduced and established, is interesting. And i i I really like the blend that this show is, because on its surface it really does look like a family show,
Mhm.
like a show that is, you sit down with the family and watch, but it's so much darker underneath it, and
Yeah.
I really dig that about it. And I think I give my hats off to Robert Downey Jr. and Susan Downey, who produced this show, for seeing the vision of this show, because I don't think without them this show gets a high budget focus like this, and I think it's what it needed. And
Yeah.
it's good to see it go out. So pretty pumped about that one. Let's move on to something Chloe loves. Let's talk Star Wars, Tales of the Empire.
A vengeful young woman and former Jedi navigate the ruthless galactic empire during different eras, their divergent choices shaping their fates in a rapidly changing galaxy. Created by Dave Filoni, and it's available on Disney Plus.
Dave Filoni, the god of Star Wars. He's honestly, like, he's the guy that like him and John Favreau are like the dudes. Filoni for longer though, because Filoni was the showrunner for the Clone Wars, like that original series. And yes, I was definitely being facetious when I said that Chloe loves Star Wars, because she does not love Star Wars. But I don't know. I This show, it's easily digestible. Each episode is like 15 minutes or so. It is done in that same style that the Bad Batch and Rebels and Clone Wars and those shows were done. And it focuses on two characters that have intersecting relationships with the Force to good and evil ends, because one of those characters is Morgan Elsbeth, who is appeared in The Mandalorian, but was also like the main villain in Ahsoka. And she's also voiced by the same actress, Diana Lee Inosanto. And also, speaking of the cast, Katie Sackhoff reprises her role in this film, in this series, as well as Lars Mikkelsen. So yeah, you got Bo-Katan and Thrawn, Admiral Thrawn, one of the best villains. And I'm such a nerd for this as a Star Wars guy, because General Grievous is in this, and General Grievous freaking rules. And yeah, I'm trying to skip over this so we can move on, because I know you're just like, ah, but it's Star Wars. It's fun stuff. It's
I like
cartoon
I
Star
like
Wars.
Grievance. He's cool.
Grievous is awesome. He's
The
got
big
that.
bug guy.
Yeah, he's got the dual
Yeah.
wielding. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like he spins them. It's freaking
And
cool.
I like Jar Jar.
You just endeared yourself to millions of Star Wars fans around the world with your love of Jar Jar. But I don't know. I saw hate for this show online, but I like any hate. You just kind of figure it out for
Irrelevant.
yourself. Yeah, exactly. Figure it out for yourself. But I didn't bring anything last week because I didn't have anything. But I added stuff to my collection this week. That's right. New to the library. The first one up is a film from the early 90s, I believe, City of Hope. Is written, directed, and edited by John Sayles, who is like a giant in the indie film world. He is celebrated by a wide margin of filmmakers. And this film, I mean, it's got one future Oscar winner in Chris Cooper, as well as three future Oscar nominees with David Strathairn, John Sayles himself, and Angela Bassett is in this movie. Before she was the formidable Angela Bassett, before she'd even done the Tina Turner movie, I believe. And due to a legal rights issue, this film has never been released on DVD or Blu-ray until now, until this edition. Which is very cool. And it also features commentary with John Sayles, which is the only feature on this Blu-ray. I've never seen the film before, but just everything I'm reading about it, I'm excited to check this one out. Next up is a film that I have seen and I really loved. It was one of my favorite films of 2007. Into the Wild is the story of Chris McCandless, who basically left everything he knew and went up into Alaska and ended up dying after eating the wrong thing up in the wild trying to survive. And Emil Hirsch plays Chris McCandless in this film, and he's so damn good. I don't think he's ever been better than his performance in this film. He's so good in this. And it also, I mean, it's got a really good cast around him because Vince Vaughn's in this one. Hal Holbrook's in this one. He was nominated for an Academy Award. It was actually crazy enough because I think he was in his 80s when he did this movie. It was his first Academy Award nomination. And Hal Holbrook is like a legend. Like he's been in so many films. He was an incredible actor since passed. Um, and the soundtrack for this one is really, really good. Eddie Vedder did the soundtrack. I don't know if you remember that we used to play this soundtrack a lot in the car driving around. It's a lot of acoustic stuff, but yeah, Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam does all the music for this
Okay.
one. Yeah, but I feel like we listened to this one a lot. There's a couple featurettes on this new Blu-ray reissue. Oh, another thing I thought was, I mean, very good of Sean Penn to do, who directed this film, but he waited 10 years to make this film to make sure he had the thorough approval of the McCandless family before he tackled this one. And I think he actually does a pretty good job in telling a fully rounded story. um Unfortunately, and I mean clearly, also a story of unchecked mental illness as well, so
Yeah.
clearly, right? So
Yeah.
all right, and two more. The next one's Thunderheart. It's a kind of mystery thriller from the 90s. And to be honest, if you asked my mom, your Nana, about it, she would be like, Steve rented this film so many times in the 90s. And I did. I really like this one. It's one of my favorite Val Kilmer films. This Blu-ray features as commentary with John Fusco, which I'm kind of interested in because Michael Apted didn't do the commentary, so fuck him, I guess. He just didn't want to do it. Which would have been interesting because is based on a true story, which he did a documentary for called Incident of at Ogallala. So like, why wouldn't you do the commentary? The hell, man. Interesting things about this film though is in the movie Val Kilmer plays a character who is a quarter Sioux. In real life, he is a 1/8 Cherokee because he said his father's grandmother was a Cherokee. Was Cherokee, not a Cherokee. Not a Jeep Cherokee.
Oops. A J-
Was
Jeep Cherokee.
Cherokee. And John Trudell, who plays an Indian activist suspected of murder in the film, uh, was inspired by the real life events surrounding Leonard Peltier, who was an Indian activist as well as a poet and a singer, and somebody that was the focus of Rage Against the Machine in a couple songs. So yeah,
Neat.
those are my nerd facts about Thunderheart, and the fact that I can't even count how many times I watched it in the 90s. Like I watched it a lot. And finally, Of Mice and Men, the 1992 version, the adaptation of the famous John Steinbeck novel, which is kind of bold to adapt into a movie, but Gary Sinise directed this one and starred in it as well. And I haven't seen this movie since high school, but I remember enjoying it in high school. It's a little dull in here and there, but I think now that I'm an adult, it would probably play differently. A lot of movies seem to play differently for me now,
Mhm.
especially movies that I thought were boring when I was a teenager or in my early 20s. Like,
Yeah, I recently rewatched 12 Angry Men,
oh,
and that is a thoroughly enjoyable film.
yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely agree with that. But yeah, this is a good cast. Gary Sinise, John Malkovich is in this one, so yeah, it's gonna be cool to see what time puts on my viewing of it this time. So I will bring it back to the show once I've done that. All right, so we're about to bring this puppy to a whole close here.
But I got a few things to say.
So what are you butting in for?
All right. So this movie came out last year, but I've been scrolling past it for a long time and I finally decided to just watch it. And that movie is Asteroid City.
Following a writer on his world famous fictional play about a grieving father who travels with his tech obsessed family to small rural asteroid city to compete in a junior stargazing event only to have his worldview disrupted forever. Starring Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, and Tom Hanks. Directed by Wes Anderson, available on Prime Video. Cliff note, way more than that through those three
Yeah,
actors.
way,
I would
way,
be
way
here
more.
for half an hour if I was gonna list them all out.
I'll
There's a lot of people in
I'll
this movie.
list some of the big ones. So Bryan Cranston, Maya Hawke, Liev Schreiber, Sophia Lillis, who was Beth in It, the
Yep.
most recent adaptation, and Edward Norton, who is most recognizable for me as the Hulk.
Yeah. American History X, I think, is the
Yeah,
first big, like, well, Primal Fear was his his like first big film, but for me the first one that like I was like, oh shit, Edward Norton, was American History X. That one. Big
yeah,
time. But I love it when actors work with Wes Anderson. I really, really love it because all the weirdest tendencies come out and they all want to come back. They all want to play in a sandbox. Um, this is a weird one, especially coming after French Dispatch, which was very much more disjointed. Um, this was a weird one. And I said this on the radio before. I wish they leaned into the alien stuff more, but
yeah.
uh,
It was kind of just like, oh, he's there. Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's back.
it's
Oh, he's
so
gone again.
it's so funny though.
Weird shit, and it was, but I had fun in it. Like I like the color palette a lot, and Rupert Friend's character for some reason was like super endearing to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like his like
And
denim cowboy.
and the other thing that got me is it is still so pointed on on being on being focused on grieving as well. Like it's
Yeah,
still like really hammering that message home. I was blown away by that fact.
yeah, it was a very human story, like very centering around like human emotions and how humans process emotions.
Hmm.
And it was a very interesting film.
One of his more emotional films that I think he's ever done. Darjeeling has this the brotherly tether in that one. Like there's certain things that he's playing in with each, but largely, and it's conveyed in his films a lot. Wes himself is an alien. Like I
Yeah.
always say that like M Night's an alien in a way how he writes people, but Wes Anderson is too. Like Wes Anderson is an Art Deco alien. Like
Hmm.
he's so he's such an odd human being. Um, which is funny that Noah Baumbach comes out of the Wes Anderson process as well and becomes a character, becomes a writer that can do that style, but also can do a very relatable and very human storytelling as well. So yeah, great. It's a great film. I dug it, and like I said, I dug it more than French Dispatch because I think he lost me a little bit there. Not that I fully disliked the film, but I think he lost me a bit.
I'm not
And I
familiar with
love
that one.
Wes. I love Wes Anderson. You should check it out. It's on Disney Plus.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very mosaic like. There's like separate stories being told in it. You also had something to say about another film that I reviewed just last week.
Right. Yeah. Um I saw Strangers Chapter 1. I
Is there hope for chapter 2?
I don't see where or how um like is um Madeline Petch's character supposed to like go on like
She's
a
going to come,
revenge arc or
I guess
something?
so.
Cuz I've already
She's going to
talked about
come
how much I
back.
hate that.
Yeah, it's Laurie Strode time. It's
Uh,
time to kill Michael Myers. Time to throw him in the grinder. Sorry, that's Halloween Ends. That's a completely different movie. I don't know how this movie goes. I really don't know.
I- yeah, like just it was so just bad. Like I don't because you said that it was written by the same guy who wrote the first two.
Him
I
and two other guys.
I don't see how that's possible. Like what happened?
Yeah, I'm wondering if like the story was his, and then they took it and made a script because the two main characters are immediately unlikable,
Mhm.
and the script is really, really, really bad. And it's just bland, and it's not scary, and nothing happens really.
No, nothing happens
There's
at all.
yeah, like, and then it ends. So I don't know.
I laughed so hard when she's like freaking out because she like heard somebody singing in the house and there's like
Now I got some reminders. Alrighty, so out on 4K this week, we've both reviewed it. Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire is on 4K and Blu-ray. I am happy to own this, really just for Dan Stevens. But Adam Wingard does commentary on it. I like Adam Wingard, especially when he talks film. He's really technical and stuff, and I really enjoyed that. Um, I reviewed it on the April 5th episode, and you reviewed it in tandem with Godzilla minus one, and I think it was about 3 weeks ago that
yes.
you had your thoughts on it, so you can check those out there. La Chimera, I just got it today, so I rushed it to the podcast. This is Alex Rohrwacher's new film. She's definitely doing an Agnes Varda impression, so doing that, it's a very pointed impression, it looks like. um I saw this film at VIFF last year. So it's going to be part of my 2023 blog that I did last year. So just search that up on stevestebbing.ca. Josh O'Connor is the lead in this one. He's British, but delivers perfect Italian in this role. And it was so impressive. This guy is a definite star. And if you don't believe me, just watch Challengers this year. You will you will be blown away by his performance in that too. I think it's one of the three best performances of the year that all come from that movie. There's no special features on this one. I will say that I didn't really like this film when I saw it at VIF. It was one of my anticipated films, and also the ones that a little bit like I feel like I didn't get, but maybe I just need another pass at it. I'm not too sure. And just a quick reminder that season 3, part 2 of Bridgerton is out this week. I've already talked about this one before. I partially get this film and don't I get this show and don't get this show. There's stuff that is like wild and I'm like, holy shit. And then there's other stuff that's so corny and like I've seen it so many times before that it's just like move on. But Nicola Coughlin's in this, and I adore her. I think she's great because I really like her in Dairy Girls. And yeah, that's it. I've got an idea of what we're gonna do next week. That's right, a little taste of what's to come, a taste of next week, and I had to make a hard decision. Because I'd already bought my ticket for Inside Out 2 because the tickets went on sale 5-6 weeks ago. Um, and but the only thing is I don't have anybody to go with. Like your sister doesn't go see movies anymore. Like they have no interest in them.
Okay.
So I'm like, like I'm gonna be the dude at a Disney Pixar movie by myself watching it. But then the reviews came back for Bad Boys, Ride or Die, and they're like good. The reviews are good on them,
Oh,
or people are enjoying it, and they're saying it's an entertaining and fun film. So I swapped out my ticket because my movie buddy, my friend Sean, usually goes to the movies with me, and he's like, yeah, I'd rather see Bad Boys rather than Inside Out 2. So I was like, Bad Boys Ride or Die it is. So that's the movie next week. We're gonna get out of the horror genre as the lead off. We're gonna go to action. And I don't think you've seen either any of the Bad Boys movies. 1, 2, or For Life.
no.
Which they should have saved it for the fourth film to be called Bad Boys
For life.
for Life.
Yeah.
They didn't
Poor
though. They
planning.
didn't. Poor planning. And then Will Smith slapped Chris Rock during like between films. So that happened. That brings us to the end of this episode. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd at the Stevel Dead.
You can find me on Letterboxd at honeybunchloe.
You can find all of these episodes on my website, stevestebbing.ca. And you can just search up my name, Steve Stebbing, on YouTube and rate and subscribe if you haven't already, because that's our gold right there.
We want you to.
That's it. But that's the end of our list this week. We got to go fill it back up again. So until then, see ya.